If you've just joined us, then as a group, we've forgotten whether the sun rises in the east or the west.
This makes us sound like complete idiots.
So we're currently trying to Google it.
East. It rises in the east and sets in the west.
So what we're going to do is run a little errand and go and I'm going to be decadent and get the latest, get a Harry Potter in Italian. The latest in my series of trying to conquer Harry Potter in as many languages as possible. Alright, I know exactly where this book is because I came here before to try and convince myself.
Because he's a child and knows the child section very well.
That's true, yeah. This is the first one. Look at that cover. I really like that.
Is it hardback?
It is, yeah. You can borrow it afterwards as well.
Grazie.
Yeah, with all my annotations and stuff, like the hard words.
Excellent. So the hard work is done for me.
Exactly, yeah. Alright.
Hi Tom.
Look at that, look, we'll make a YouTuber out of you, yeah.
The old Bentivoglio church.
There you go. Can you see that? That is so weird. That's just from the drizzle.
Rain pollution.
This is a disadvantage that we've just found about Bologna. The rain is dirty. I don't get that. I've never seen that in my life. It looks like little bits of mud have been landing on my life. I think.
Grazie.
Prego. I think it's definitely spritzer cloth on. Oh, I can't get back far enough. This will do if I slouch. I'll just slouch massively. Anyway, I figured while we were walking around, I would ask you, we could talk about language-y related stuff, just to make it relevant, you know, so that it's not just us on our holiday, it's us on our holiday.
It's not a holiday, it's a learning experience.
It's a learning experience, So how long have you been here now?
2.5 months.
2.5 months. When you arrived, did you speak any Italian?
No.
No. Because
I studied some Italian like a year and a half ago in London, but completely forgot everything, and when I arrived I felt as though I couldn't say anything apart from ciao.
Ciao.
Grazie.
Ciao, grazie. It's like a strange feeling, like trying to live in a country when you don't speak anything at all, you know? How have you coped with that for the first like?
Well, I think for me the first, because I was here for a week and a half before I started school to kind of ease myself into living in Bologna, and that was probably maybe a little too long before starting school, because I felt like I couldn't say anything, and so like even when I went out, I was like nervous to ask for like, you know, a coffee or order at like a table.
I still am. I still feel like there's loads of pressure on me to be like perfect in Italian.
Yeah.
Even the like, because like when you're speaking to somebody, I need to slouch a bit more, I think. So it's going to be really unattractive because I'm just going to be here like. Maybe I could fix this by changing the camera angle so I don't have to slouch so much. Hang on. Oh, there you go. That is much better.
Oh, and I can't see my face. Perfect.
Oh, well, because the lens is in the way from your angle.
Yeah. Good. I don't want to see myself.
Yeah, like even then when I was getting these spritzers, I feel like because I'm beginning a conversation with somebody in Italian. I feel like there's then pressure on me to be like really good at Italian, especially like those like normal interactions.
Yeah, but even though they're so simple, I still have a fear of being like vorrei un caffè, because I'm like, what if I say it wrong?
It's like for some reason it feels like the ultimate test, because you're like, that's where you're like pretending to be a local, right? Almost. That's what I feel. Yeah. So how much because you did Latin, right?
Yeah.
How much did that prepare you for Italian, or like languages in general?
Yeah.
Like having done something else.
Yeah. I mean, studying Latin helps with all Romance languages, because you know they obviously derive from Latin. So, and my knowledge of like linguistic concepts is obviously there. Like I understand why verbs change, I understand why we have different moods, like why we have different tenses. So it definitely helps with understanding how the language works. And it does help with especially my reading, because a lot of words obviously very similar to the word in Latin. So when I'm reading, it's a lot easier. But speaking is like more difficult, because you're talking about things that in general Latin doesn't necessarily help with.
Because Latin is all about battles and warriors
or poetry,
and
you know, or like, you know, or oratory. You know, Cicero's not helping me that much.
Cicero's not helping you ask, can I get a spritz? Do you want a spritz?
Yeah.
What sort of spritz?
Do you have a lighter? Like,
yeah. Have you got a lighter, mate? Was never in the Iliad.
No, definitely not.
Is that Greek?
The Iliad is Greek.
At least I knew that to correct myself.
Yeah.
How has your progress been over the last 2.5? Like, do you really feel that you've improved?
So I didn't, because obviously when you're learning bit by bit every day, it's a bit like when you have a sister and you grow up with them and you don't notice when they get older. But when your friends have children or whatever and you haven't seen them for a year and then you come and you're like, oh my god, you've grown so much. But you don't notice when you live with someone because it's just gradual.
Okay, that is a really interesting simile. I really like that. Okay.
So obviously I didn't notice it at all. I still feel like I'm awful because obviously, you know, the dream is to be perfect. But when I went for coffee with a girl that I met in Bologna the first day of school, and it was really difficult because you know, I didn't understand a lot of what she was saying. She had to like repeat herself or explain it in English. And then I went for lunch with her maybe a month later, and she recognised and I recognised how much I had developed because we could hold a conversation, whereas before it was kind of, you know, her saying something, me asking questions, not quite understanding, very jilted. Whereas like when I saw her a month later.
And I find that so interesting that you are like perhaps one of the worst people to be able to tell how well you're progressing, because I really like that simile. For example, I was telling you the other day, when I was editing the video in Ravenna, which you might have seen, link here to the video in Ravenna. When I was doing that video in Ravenna, I was editing it like a couple of days later, like the next week. So the bit where you interview me, I was editing that section 4 days after it had happened, and it was so weird to me to watch that back, because even 4 days later I was watching that back and I was like, who is this idiot who can't speak any Italian? Like, you asked me where I came from and I was like, huh?
What does that mean?
And then there was a bit I cut out where I said to you, oh, where do I come from? Oh, okay, we haven't done that verb yet. But you hadn't used you'd used the verb essere. You hadn't used venire.
No.
And like, but I thought that you had, because I was like, I don't understand it, therefore we mustn't have learnt it yet. But actually I was just being an idiot. And even like 4 days later, it changed so much. And so I say on my channel sometimes, like, if you have the chance, film yourself speaking in your target language for like 5-10 minutes or whatever, and then a couple of months later do it again, because without recording a point in time it's really hard to see your progress. And you don't have to put it online or whatever, but just for your own benefit. It's really interesting to see that change.
And you also have, you know, good days and bad days. Like some days I feel like I can speak Italian really well when
or some levels of blood alcohol.
You know, I've had some alcohol levels, but you know, you feel as though you've had a proper conversation and you're like, oh yes, or like, you know, you go into a shop and like have a perfect conversation and they don't, well, they probably realise that I'm English, but my Italian's good enough for them to realise that we can speak in Italian. But then other days, you know, I have a conversation where I don't understand anything that they're saying, and I feel like I've gone back to square one. So it really does depend. It's difficult. But also, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'm like, I want to be perfect now. It's
interesting that our targets are very different. Like, you want to be like native speaker, fluent, perfect, and I just want to be like B2, kind of have a good, like, I define fluent as being able to have a conversation with somebody on like the same social level. I spoke about that when I was in Holland, and I spoke about how as long as somebody can like engage with you on the same terms as anybody else, I feel like then you're kind of okay. But there's a big difference between that and being like completely native.
I mean, I think native is pretty much impossible unless you're native.
Unless, you've got 5-6 years to go.
I can't go back in time and be born in Italy. I think confidence also plays a massive part in it. Like I waiting for the moment where I feel, you know, confident enough to speak confidently, know that if I'm in a group of people who are Italian and are speaking, that I will in general understand probably your level of fluent, your definition of the word fluent.
Okay.
You know, that confidence where you don't feel nervous when you're in a group of Italian people because, you know, you don't understand what they're saying, they have to repeat it for you, and you feel a bit of a, what do you call, like a burden.
A burden, yes, that is tricky, because people are generally so nice though, like they will help you out and repeat things, and like, but it's hard not to feel like you're dragging the conversation down. For, like,
and I always say this when people have, like Italian people have offered to, like, you know, for me to go out with their friends, I'm like, are you sure? because because I'm like, I can try, but there's a strong chance that there will have to be a fair amount of English or explanation, or generally
which gets more difficult as the night goes on and people have a couple of drinks. Their English goes down and your Italian goes down. Speaking of drinks, should we commit to our spritzes?
Ah, see.
All right. Okay.